Have you got a dream of crossing oceans? You need the Selene 66 Classic Explorer. I'm currently with Daryl. That was a good intro, wasn't it,
That was
Daryl?
perfect.
And we're going to have a look at a boat. It's actually not for sale, but the owners have allowed us to do a tour. This is the Selene 66. Daryl, take it away.
Good, thanks Mark. So what we have here is the Selene 66 Classic Explorer. There's two parts to the Selene range, the Classic Explorer and the Ocean Explorer, which is a more contemporary model. This is a full displacement boat and it's a true explorer boat. It's designed to go to remote locations and really manage off the grid. So we want to go for a walk
Let's
through.
go have a look. Got a lovely fishing deck out the back here. You've got the barbecue, which is essential.
And Mark, this is actually a hydraulic swim platform.
So it lowers down.
Lowers down. There's an option if you want to put the tender on here.
Yep.
But also have the tender upstairs. Most people want both options. But yeah, nice big roomy hydraulic swim platform.
Nice area.
Room to board the boat from either side.
Yep.
And of course, and we'll come back to the lazarette, but you can enter the lazarette from here if you want to get your dive gear or toys or whatever it might be.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So coming up the stairs.
Now, Selene are a Taiwanese manufacturer, aren't they?
That's right. The founder is a Taiwanese naval architect.
Yep.
Actually, he's an architect for houses as well, which you'll perhaps see as you walk through the boat, the impact that he has on the design of these boats. But been building boats for 25 years. There's about 400 Selenes around the world and production's growing. They've just opened a new factory, which will enable us to meet growing demand and to bring some new capabilities as well to the build.
So nice little area here to...
So the cockpits on these boats are lovely, and this is the configuration on most boats. Obviously a very nice place to sit there with friends and family and have a glass of wine or some breakfast. It's out of the wind. You'll be anchored, obviously, pointing into the wind.
Yep.
So it's nicely sheltered.
Yeah.
And perhaps one of the other things we could show you, Mark, you'll see on the port side of the boat, there is a walk-around deck. That's not on the starboard side. So it's one side walk-around, and we call that Widebody. So the benefit, you'll see in a moment when we go into the saloon and the galley, it gives you a much bigger space in those areas. And people say to us that haven't had a wide-body boat before or a single walk-around before, they say, doesn't it make it difficult to tie up on the other side? And it doesn't. So these boats are... They're full displacement, deep keel, heavy boat, and they just don't move around in the wind. So if you're berthing, it's very easy with the dockmate, one person at the stern, whoever's driving the boat on the bow with the dockmate to tie it up, whether it's port or starboard.
Yep.
So I know Terry, the owner, he doesn't even ask for a port side tie-up. So we think the wide body's a great option, but people can have twin walk-arounds as well.
They want that, yep.
Yeah.
Lovely.
They can also have stairs from here up to the flybridge.
Yep.
The owner of this boat's chosen not to do that.
So a few customisations that are possible with the Selene?
I'd say extensive customisation. We have a saying at Selene that if you've seen one Selene, you've seen one Selene. You know, so virtually every boat has some form of customisation, and this is a good example. Often there's a stairway in this corner that goes down to the aft end of the engine room or the cruise quarters. Cherry chose not to do that. The owner chose not to do that because there's another entrance forward.
Yep.
And that gives him some more cupboards in this space. So a lovely wide, airy salon area. Table that goes up and down.
Yep.
Adjustable so you can make it a bit smaller. All this is hand done in the factory.
Nice.
Yeah, they're absolute craftspeople over there.
And there's a history of that in Taiwan too, isn't it? I know the Choi Lee.
Yes, that's right.
Choi Lee yachts.
Yep, famous brand.
Still a few around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these boats are now built in southern China.
Yep.
The founder was Taiwanese, but he's now got this beautiful new factory in southern China, not far from Hong Kong. So anyone wanting to visit, it's a very easy trip from Hong Kong.
Nice.
So if we go forward, essentially these boats are no different to your home in the way they're optioned and equipped. You can see a big Liebherr fridge freezer. They're a very, very good fridge. There's also more refrigeration in the lazarette. Dishwasher, induction cooktop, microwave, convection oven. Some boats, people like to put a garbage compactor if they're going to be at sea for a long time. But lovely big area in it, and it benefits, as I said, from the wide body configuration. You know, this is a huge galley.
And with the induction, you've got plenty of power on board with the battery pack to power.
We do. This boat has 24 volts, has 3,200 amp hours.
Wow!
So it's enormous.
So you can literally just go off grid, no concerns with. Well, we've got the lights on here.
That's right. We're actually not plugged in at the moment, and it's got about 3,000 watts of solar as well.
Oh, fantastic!
So, and add to that big cruising alternators. So when you're cruising on the boat,
charging all the time.
But you can essentially run anything you want on the boat off the lithium. The generators, won't be long. It'll have cobwebs on it. It rarely gets used.
And the lithium, some people have issues with lithium. So it's a sealed battery pack, or
it's a Victron system. It's certified by a company called BME in Australia. They give you a certificate, or give us a certificate with each boat, and we give that to the insurers. So it's all done, as you'd expect, to the Australian standards, which are very rigorous, by the way.
Yes, all right.
But lithium, I would say, is one of the game changers in boating. It effectively perhaps take you into the wheelhouse.
Yes, and we'll have a look as we do the tour. Yes,
talk a little more about that. So to keep an eye on your lithium,
everything's there.
That's right. We've got multiple displays, but you can see this boat's actually a combination of 48 volt lithium and 24.
Yes,
the 48 volt brings some different efficiencies. This, of course, is I guess we say the nerve centre of the boat.
Yes.
Wonderful spot, obviously, to drive the boat from.
Look at that wheel too.
That's right.
Beautiful finish there.
Yeah. As I said, that's all hand done. You'll see everything is curved and no sharp edges on this boat.
Yep.
But a lovely
finish. Beautiful finish.
Very nice finish. Yeah.
Yeah. All the wood looks fantastic, doesn't it?
So we set the boats up. About this size anyway, with the 4 big displays, and you'll see we replicate most of that up on the flybridge. This boat is fitted with a hydraulic stabilisation system, so the fins, and they work while the boat's underway, but they also work at anchor. So that they've been around it for a long time for boats that are underway. But they're very, very effective, these new stabilisers at anchor, and they will run off your lithium batteries without the generator going. So you can be in a rolly anchorage. I think of places like Whitehaven Beach.
Yep.
Often it's just too rolly to stay there.
Stabilise it. Fantastic.
You turn them on.
You can drop anchor at Byron Bay there with a bit of a swell.
Well, it actually changes where you stay on the boat. On most of the boats now, we're actually doing electric stabilisers, and they're even more efficient and work equally well, and bring some benefits, a bit less maintenance, a few less moving parts.
And what sort of cruise speed are you doing with a boat like this?
So these boats are designed, as I said, for long trips. Has a big fuel tank. This one has about 9,800 litres. You're getting along, anywhere from 8 to 10 knots.
Yep.
We've got some of the fuel usage stats there. If you're going at 8 knots on a boat, this was pretty much an identical boat to this. At 8 knots, you're using about 2.8 litres per nautical mile.
Wow.
And that will give you a range of about 3,200.
Gee, that's fairly good. I mean, I'm comparing that to my 20 horsepower. I'm using about 1.3.
Yeah.
So that gives some people some idea. Very fuel efficient.
Yeah. Well, these are designed that way. It has a bulbous bow, which helped. Not particularly large engines. It has 2 Cummins QSL 9330 horsepower.
Yep.
You could even go smaller. There's another one of these in Brisbane with slightly smaller engines.
Yep.
But they are very fuel efficient. Lovely. You'll see when we go to the engine room.
Yes.
Lovely.
Well, let's check out the bedrooms and the living quarters, Daryl.
And a nice spot to sit while you're cruising.
Oh, yes.
Coming up from, we bought this boat up from Sydney, had our meals here.
Oh, nice.
Someone at the helm.
Yeah, the fittings are lovely, aren't they? Very nice finish.
Yeah, very nicely finished. A quality boat.
Yes.
So this boat has 3 cabins and a cruise quarters.
Yep.
This is the guest cabin.
Yep.
So queen bed.
Yep.
Off this cabin is a bathroom ensuite, which has a double door.
Yep.
So that there's access for the other guests, if you happen to have more guests,
Or the kiddies.
who might be in this room. And these can be figured, with bunks.
Yep.
That comes out. If you want to make it into a double bed, that just swaps and goes over there, and this bed comes across.
Nice.
Plenty of storage.
And this is the captain's stateroom down
That's
this way,
right.
Daryl.
This is the master cabin.
I'll go ahead of you and let you follow. And
we've just walked past the washer dryer.
Yes. All right. Oh, lovely. Hidden away.
And it's a separate washer dryer too, so one of each rather than a combi unit. So this is the as you said, the master cabin, full beam.
Yep.
They now put these nice long windows in, which adds light and gives you a lovely.
You can open them up, let a bit of air flow through. Yep.
Probably good to close them when you're underway, but
no, I would do that.
And then
very nice fittings, and even with the shower, everything's got a lovely wood feel. Hasn't it?
Yeah. This boat's is teak.
Oh, nice.
And certainly a lovely owner suite. And this is when you're cruising, because often you'll go non-stop. This is a very comfortable berth, but so are those forward. Maybe not very forward, or if you're in rough seas, not
nice
so good.
Headroom too.
That's right.
We're both 6 foot.
Yep.
And we've got plenty of.
No shortage of headroom, and a little desk if you're wanting some privacy.
Yep. And to do some work, and you've got your power there to plug in the laptop.
That's right. And of course the boat, we always put Starlink on the boats, and it becomes your office. The number of people that are now working from their boat.
Yes.
Good example of 71%ers. If people haven't watched those, look up 71%.
Yeah.
They're heading from Gold Coast to east coast of US on a 49 Selene, so a much smaller boat than this.
Yeah.
And uploading their videos once a week on Starlink.
And a lot easier than in the yacht when you're on a lean.
That's right. Very different. So this, Mark, takes us into the engine
room. The big Cummins.
Yeah.
Twin Cummins.
330 horsepower. The boats come with either Cummins or John Deere. It's a choice. We find both are very, very good engines. Cummins have wonderful support, and that caused the owner to go with Cummins. But both companies, have great support. Because it's an ocean-going boat and an explorer boat, there's a lot of thought goes into managing the fuel and redundancies. So perhaps first thing I'd say is that this boat will run very comfortably on one engine.
Yes.
So if you happen to lose an engine, so that's your redundancy there. The fuel, every engine, including the genset, has twin switchable fuel filters. You can see there's a reverso fuel polishing system.
Yes.
And if you pick up some fuel and you're a bit worried about it, or you just want to circulate your fuel, you can pump it through a series of filters between the tanks or through one tank. And
that is so important, because it is a big issue. Being at sea, if your boat's been on anchor, then you go to sea, the fuel gets to the tank, everything gets washed around the tank, and you can get blocked filters.
That's right.
One of the biggest problems for people going out on boats.
It's one of the things that will stop a diesel engine, obviously.
Yes.
Hydraulic pumps on both engines, and then a third hydraulic pump on the genset. So if you needed extra boost, sometimes if it's windy and you're coming into a marina, the owner might start the genset just to give a little extra hydraulic grunt when these Cummins are idling.
Yep.
We would probably encourage people to look at an all-electric boat these days. The electric thrusters are now very, very good. As I talked about, electric stabilisers before, electric anchor winch, electric washdown pumps for the anchor chain. That's very doable now.
So we've got the battery power now with the lithium.
That's right.
And the solar to make that possible.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And, there's some benefits to not having hydraulics. But all these things are optional on a Selene.
Yep.
A good-sized genset.
Yep.
Doesn't get a lot of use with the modern lithium system. Of course, a
Watermaker.
watermaker.
Yep.
You've got hot water service. You've got all your hydraulics over here. You can see quite extensive hydraulics.
Yep.
And perhaps the other thing we talk about, because these boats go to remote locations, it's very easy for the owner to do work on them. We've got a Selene, a smaller one, and I can certainly change the oil and the fuel filters. And
yes, plenty of room. It's not like crawling around a little. You've got to be a contortionist.
Yeah, that's right.
On my 30-footer.
Plenty of room.
End up having a bad back for a week. And we're walking through to the crew area.
We are.
Daryl?
So I won't go in there behind. Well, we can if you want, but behind that door is the electrical room.
Yep.
So we keep the sensitive electrical gear out of the engine room.
Yes.
So that electrical room houses things like inverters and a range of other sensitive equipment.
Yep.
This cruise quarters has one bed.
Yep.
Some of them they can, as I said, be configured however you want. Some have doubles, some have bunks.
Yep.
But this is actually a very nice place to ride on the boat. And of course, there's a shower and head for the skipper.
Yep.
Or the crew.
Yeah.
Some people choose not to go with cruise quarters, and of course, then you could have a huge lazarette.
Yes.
There's additional refrigeration.
Yep.
Big, probably a risk opening this because who knows what we'll find, but
plenty of room. Plenty of room.
Yep. Yeah, and access to things. You know, the people that work on boats love saloons because it's just easier to get at things.
Yes.
Even the steering and the stern thruster in there.
Everything you've got access to if you have any problems.
You can see if there's an issue with the autopilot or the steering.
Yep.
So the place perhaps the last place we should have a look at is up on the foredeck and then the flybridge.
Let's head there, yes.
You want to go?
Well, you lead the way, Daryl.
Back this way.
And when we're walking through, this boat is not for sale. It's the owners allowed us to walk through. But what sort of price are we sort of looking at with these?
Look, it'd be around the 6 million mark.
Yes,
and that's fully optioned.
Yep.
And we build in there some shipping allowance. So, you know, we price the boats in a way that people aren't going to come to us think, oh, that's a good price, and then plus. You know, we build the boats so that they're essentially ready to go. All you'd need to add is a life raft and a tender.
Yes.
And we can add those too if you want. So.
Yep. Well, the sun's come out. That's good to see, isn't it, Daryl?
We need some sunglasses. So
yes, it's very bright.
And a helicopter buzzing past.
Yep.
So set up with twin ultramakers.
Yep.
Beautiful stainless steel chain.
Yes.
That's actually an optional extra.
Beautiful stainless steel anchors too.
Yeah, and these are so easy to keep clean. So this boat has been spending a lot of time in the Hawkesbury, very muddy.
Yep.
But the anchor wash just gets the mud off and it comes up, you know, shiny clean and cleans the anchor as well.
They do look great, yes. And I believe this is called a Portuguese bridge. Is that right, Daryl?
It is.
See, I know my stuff, mate.
That's very clever. Yeah, Portuguese bridge and walk around.
Which kind of gives some people a bit of protection, doesn't it?
It does.
And something to hold on to if you want to go out there in a rough sea and feel the wind in your hair.
Watch the dolphins.
Wind in your hair. We don't have to worry about wind
in the hair. That's right.
We don't have to worry about wind in our hair, Daryl.
That's a distant memory, unfortunately. But and it's interesting with a Selene, we find there's sort of multiple areas to congregate or hang out. The young ones like getting forward where they can get a bit more sun.
Yes.
You know, people spend a lot of time in the wheelhouse. And I'll show you the flybridge.
Yeah, we'll head up there and then.
So some steps up here. You'll find on a Selene there's always plenty of handholds in case you're in rough weather.
Yes.
So essentially, we put 3 screens up on the helm.
And look at that view out there. You've got plenty of 360-degree vision.
It's very nice, and we don't replicate everything up here, but most things, you know, obviously the stabilisers, your bow and stern thruster, and 3 screens is pretty adequate.
Yes, and still a nice little area out here.
That's right.
And with the tender, lovely big tender too.
So that's a Highfield 3.9 Sport.
Yep.
You could put a bigger boat on. The crane that's about a 680, 1,500 pounds. I think that's about 680.
Just have a look. And all the toys on the side there.
That's right.
Gee, that's a nice tender in itself, isn't it?
And this davit makes it it's an extendable boom.
Yep.
Lift it up. One person job.
Easy to go.
Swings around. You pop this rail out over the side.
Daryl, you have done a fantastic tour. You've covered everything. Appreciate it. I know you weren't sure how you were going to go. You've done extremely well.
We've got there.
Thank you. That was a great tour.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you doing these walkthroughs. What a great way to show people, you know, the beautiful boats here at the show.
For sure. Yeah. And a great variety of boats too.
Yes.
Daryl, you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We appreciate it.